So in this segment, we're going to be discussing how this Brexiteer basically getting slammed by Marina Purkiss over her just nonsense lies, and kind of the Brexiteers using the most ridiculous arguments to justify why Marina Purkiss was wrong and this Brexiteer was right, and it's just hilarious. So we'll cut to the clip here.
Was set up to punish Britain, to put them in a Sophie's choice situation where you either say, get rid of, one constituent country of your union, or the whole thing has to stay controlled by the EU.
If that's true, Marina, why do you think Rishi hasn't gone for a smart border?
Because
And she didn't debunk it here, but the nonsense about the Sophie choice thing, no, this is the consequence of Brexit. When you have Northern Ireland, which is bordering an EU member state here, you have to a border has to go somewhere in that case, and that's the thing Brexiteers don't understand. The EU never set up the situation that Britain would be in the Sophie's choice box of giving up part of the union. It was never like that. It was the UK that put ourselves in this position.
It's not possible. Sorry, Alex, you're talking...
Why is it not possible?
This is like fantasy
EU
stuff.
document from 2017, that was the proposal they had laid out themselves.
Explain why.
I don't know what document she's referring to specifically. I don't remember the EU setting up anything about a smart border. It was Britain and Brexiteers who kept talking about smart border, so I think her point is nonsense. She really should have been able to cite the example of the things she was talking about here.
Firstly, the idea that we're blaming the EU again, that they trapped us, for goodness sake. Boris Johnson, self-imposed a deadline for the withdrawal agreement. He celebrated it as a win, and then he decided actually he was signing it with his fingers crossed behind his back, and he was going to not adhere to the thing that he signed to himself. And you talk about, we need to make Brexit work by deregulating. The more we deregulate, Alex, and this is the thing that Brexiteers you fail to understand, or you pretend to misunderstand it, is that the more we deregulate, the more we close the door on our nearest trading partner.
Okay, it's patently true, because if you start deregulating, the checks at the border are going to be more aggressive, and they're going to want to look at, are your goods up to EU standards? So it's absolutely 100% true.
The point of deregulation, right, is that we deviate from environmental standards, food safety standards, hygiene, whatever.
We have better standards in the UK.
Excuse me, have a look at our sewage problem, maybe.
Because the EU set the base standards. That's the problem. The EU say, look, these are the basics every country needs to adhere to, and you can go above that if you want, but you can't go below this. So her argument, again, ridiculous.
Maybe have a look at that. How did that happen? That happened since we left. That happened since we left the EU. And look at the state of our waters. They promised us that our waters would be better. No, as soon as they got the moment, we deviated from EU standards, and now we pump sewage into our waters. So why is the EU going to trust us? Why is the EU going to?
So what's false? Sorry, what's false? Because it's 100% true. The EU have clean water directives by 2026. We would have failed on those EU directives by then. So what's false here?
Trust us to let our goods just go into their markets. I wouldn't. Do you know that the UK government just this month had to pay the EU £2.6 billion because we let Chinese counterfeit goods come into our market?
Very well.
I would not trust.
I think it wasn't just over counterfeit goods. It was just certain companies using the UK to get goods in without having to pay customs fees and things like that. I think it's not the best kind of debate format, I'll be honest. There's a lot of gish galloping here, but I would have focused specifically on the point around Northern Ireland, and that Boris Johnson is the one that came up with the protocol and accepted it. So how can it be that it's suddenly all wrong here when our Prime Minister ran an election in part on it? But we've got these titans of the game here. Niall Gardiner saying clearly that woman, that Alex woman, the one on the left, clearly won the debate. As a former member of the European Parliament, she knows a great deal more about Brexit and why the UK is far better off outside the sinking EU. And you're thinking, all right, so what specific arguments did she use to win here? Because I think I've debunked most of her arguments. He doesn't give any specific examples. I don't know what he's talking about here. And then you've got this other titan, Mike Graham, saying, embarrassing, Marina Purkiss is married to a footballer, Alex Phillips, democratically elected MEP in Brussels. Who's the expert? So if you're married to a footballer, you can't be an expert in anything? And, Alex Phillips, because she was an MEP, she's an expert in the EU, when we just saw that wasn't even true. And I think this is what they call the old fallacy of appeal to authority, that because she was an MEP, she has authority in this argument, and that she's immediately right here. It makes absolutely no sense. Genuinely, these titans of the game here who've come out in the defence, these are the best arguments they could have come up with, which was, she's an MEP, you're married to a footballer, you're stupid, man. Like, is that the best that they've got? Really? I mean, that's just embarrassing, isn't it? Absolutely embarrassing. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And hopefully this myth of smart borders can die. And I'll catch you in the next one.